Before bald eagles, vultures, or pelicans, there was another flying creature known as Quetzalcoatlus that used to rule the skies of our planet. This gigantic, scary-looking bird had a neck so long that it made it taller than a giraffe and wingspans so huge that it could easily cast a shadow over a whole house. Well, thankfully, today such creatures are only part of storybooks or movies, but that wasn't always the case. Millions of years ago, these creatures used to rule our skies and were one of the most dominant living beings on the planet. So, what happened to them? How big were they actually? And most importantly, where did they go? This is the story of Quetzalcoatlus, the biggest flying prehistoric animal on the planet Earth. So let's get into it. Discovery of the fossil. Now the first question here is, how did we come to know about these birds? Well, the story of Quetzalcoatlus basically starts in the year 1971, when a young graduate, Douglas Lawson, was digging around in Big Bend National Park, Texas, USA. Douglas was part of a team from the University of Texas looking for dinosaur fossils when one day he came across a very strange-looking bone. Unlike the normal dinosaur bone, this one was long, light, and hollow. Douglas's team, or any other, didn't belong to any creature they had seen before. As the digging went on, he uncovered more bones, including a piece of a massive wing and parts of the neck. This was the point when Douglas and his team realized they had found something entirely new. The next step was giving this newly found creature a name and trying to find out more about it. In 1975, Lawson officially named the creature Quetzalcoatlus northropii. The name was taken from two origins. The first word comes from Quetzalcoatl, which was a feathered serpent god from Aztec mythology, and the second name, northropii, was given in honor of John Northrop, a designer of futuristic aircraft who specialized in flying wings. But the more important question here was Quetzalcoatlus a bird, a dinosaur, or something entirely different, a flying giant? Because of the wings, the first guess of scientists and experts was that the Quetzalcoatlus might be a bird, but in reality, it wasn't one. It belonged to a group of flying reptiles called pterosaurs, which inhabited the Earth during the same time as the dinosaurs, but were not dinosaurs themselves. So what were they? Well, for starters, Quetzalcoatlus was really huge to put it into a category of any type of bird. Take its wingspan, for example. According to the estimates made based on the found fossils, Quetzalcoatlus had a wingspan of 10 to 11 meters, and for those of you who still aren't getting the picture, this number means it was as wide as a small airplane like a Cessna. Similarly, height was too. This creature was entirely something else. While standing on the ground, it could reach a height of around 5 meters, which, by the way, is taller than a modern giraffe. In terms of weight, scientific evidence suggests that this flying giant weighed between 70 to 250 kilograms, about the same as a large human or an African lion. Now, you might think that taking its height into account, the weight should have been more, but like birds, Quetzalcoatlus was quite lightweight, which can be explained by the fact that it had hollow bones, a fact that was also confirmed by the bones found during the digging. However, unlike birds, it didn't have any form of feathers. Its wings were made of a skin-like membrane, which was supported by a super long fourth finger, making the wings even stronger. But despite all this, the physical feature which made Quetzalcoatlus even weirder was its neck. Its neck was long and stiff, and it had a huge pointed toothless beak that was used for grabbing prey. Size-wise, The head was almost 2.5 meters long. Now, after knowing all the anatomy of Quetzalcoatlus, another important question that was raised is, how can an animal this giant fly? This question kept scientists confused for years. According to some experts, Quetzalcoatlus was too big to fly, and because of its size, it must have been a flightless bird, just like a modern ostrich. But more recent studies suggest that it did fly, just by a strange method. You see, today's birds use their legs to push off the ground, but pterosaurs had incredibly strong front limbs. Quetzalcoatlus most likely used a method in which it would crouch and push off with both its legs and arms. After getting in the air, instead of flapping constantly like small birds, it used gliding and soaring while riding on warm air currents, a method that is used by modern vultures and albatrosses. Another astonishing feature that made this bird a flying beast was its speed. According to experts, despite all its weight and height, it could fly at speeds of up to 130 kilometers per hour, and most probably traveled hundreds of kilometers in a day, possibly even migrating across long distances like today's seabirds. Was Quetzalcoatlus a killer bird? After looking at the bone structure and finding more archaeological evidence, it became confirmed that Quetzalcoatlus was in fact a carnivore. But exactly how and what it ate? At first, many prehistoric animal experts believed that it skimmed the water like pelicans, scooping up fish. But this theory was soon rejected, as its beak didn't have the right structure for that, and it lacked the jaw strength for constant water skimming. To further nullify the scoop theory, most fossils were found far from oceans, suggesting that the food source Quetzalcoatlus wasn't water. The location of the fossils confirmed that Quetzalcoatlus was a terrestrial hunter. Bone structure and other findings hinted that it probably walked on all fours across open plains or riverbeds, using its sharp eyesight and long beak to snatch up prey. It may have eaten lizards, baby animals, insects, or even small dinosaurs. Scientists also think that it must have been a top predator in its habitat and a ruthless killer, making it one of the deadliest creatures of that time. Where did these birds live? Another important question regarding Quetzalcoatlus is exactly when and where did they live? Now, we have already discussed that it was a terrestrial bird, but where exactly on the planet did it live? Fossil dating has made it clear that Quetzalcoatlus lived around 72 to 66 million years ago, a time that is commonly called the Late Cretaceous period. This means that this creature was alive during the last period of dinosaur existence on Earth, just before the mass extinction event that wiped most of them out. As Lawson discovered the fossils in Texas, we know that these giant flying birds lived in what is now North America, especially the southern United States. Different findings suggest that the environment in this area during that time was much warmer, with lush forests, rivers, and open plains. Though it lived on land, it might have traveled between different habitats, possibly stopping near lakes or coastlines. As more digging was done in the surrounding areas, more and more bones were found, and now there are two species of Quetzalcoatlus that we know about. Quetzalcoatlus northropi, which was much larger in size and is believed to be the biggest flying creature on the planet's history, and Quetzalcoatlus lawsoni, which was a smaller animal, that most probably more common and lived in groups. But what exactly happened to them? If they were so up the food chain and could even fly? What animal hunted them to extinction? Or was it something else? The end of Quetzalcoatlus. One thing is for sure, the extinction of this creature wasn't brought by any other animal. In fact, They most probably met their end the same way that most prehistoric animals of its time, including dinosaurs, did. Now we already know that around 66 million years ago, a disaster struck Earth. A massive asteroid, which is estimated to be about 10 to 15 kilometers wide, slammed into what is now the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, creating the Chicxulub crater. This impact caused an unimaginable explosion, which was much, much larger than any nuclear bomb, throwing dust into the atmosphere and blocking any form of sunlight for years. As a result, the temperature on the planet decreased, which further resulted in fires, acid rain, and starvation. This catastrophic event wiped out about 75% of all life, including the dinosaurs and Quetzalcoatlus. Today, the remains that were once discovered by Lawson rest in museums and research labs to find out more and more about this majestic creature. What makes Quetzalcoatlus one of the most astonishing prehistoric creatures is the fact that it wasn't the biggest flying animal that ever lived. It was basically a combination of features that until 1971, every biologist and expert thought of as impossible. With a wingspan big enough to cast a shadow on a house, a neck as big as a giraffe, and a size as huge as a small plane, Quetzalcoatlus was an incredible killing machine that could fly, and that too at an incredibly fast pace. Even though it vanished long ago, scientists believe that they are yet to uncover much more information about this creature. So make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe to our channel so we can keep on bringing such content to your screens.